Hello, my dear students, and welcome to this new lesson of our course, Syllabus Design and Planning Lessons. Our lesson for today is planning a broad outline for a sequence of lessons, including the recycling of learning content. First, let's start with some introduction. As well as planning lessons every day. Teachers also need a picture of the whole course. Need a picture of the whole course, term, or unit. A bit like zooming out in GPS to view street within a city. Planning a sequence of lessons means putting lessons into a logic order and considering how different skills and areas of language build on each other and connect. In doing so, teachers can help learners see connections between activities, lessons, and plan for regular revision. Planning a sequence of lessons helps with timing and avoids the problem of having to rush through the end of the course because the pace was too slow in the beginning. Preparation becomes easier because teachers can organize materials in advance for several lessons. However, despite all the benefits, teachers need to view the unit plan as a flexible document, one that can and probably should change in response to the learners. So, what about our aims for this lesson? In this section, you will identify the problems teachers have with the planning unit or work and offer them advice. Also, you will consider a procedure for planning a sequence of lessons. Besides that, you will plan a unit of work and reflect on how effective it is by asking for feedback from your learners. Also, you will discuss the best way to plan and share units of work in your school. Now, let's move to the point of analysis, part A, analysis. Part A, analyze. Can you advise these teachers? Okay, read about 4 learners who describe problems with their English courses. Please try to underline the problems or even all problems. Okay? You think of these 2, okay? Isabel and Axel. They think other problems. Okay, Isabel says, I don't like Tuesdays. We always do reading first, which is difficult, and then we have to write something. It's boring, and we have to work by ourselves all the time. So here, as you see, Isabel's problem is that they are do reading first, and they think it's difficult, or she thinks it's difficult, and then she said, we have to write something. And the problem is that they work by themselves all the time. Okay. So here we should make some type of, or yes, we should make some type of advice for her teacher. The lesson on Tuesdays are predictable, always the same, so no problem. They lack variety in terms of interaction patterns. Isabel's teacher could vary or make change. So he can vary the lesson. For example, he can use reading plus speaking and also vocabulary and reading. So he can make something different, write the vocabulary on the board. Okay. So it's better even to help students to know vocabulary and to find something new. Okay. So the teacher should make yes lesson interesting for his students. Another advice, okay, for the teacher, you can plan, okay, for a variety of interaction patterns. For example, per work or even group work, etc. Let them do something together, okay, not by themselves, okay, or even individually. For example, learners could brainstorm, okay, or they can even brainstorm a writing topic in groups or produce a piece of writing in pairs. So you can make them do something together, okay, in groups or even in pairs. That will be also, yes, different in some way, okay, and it will make them interesting, okay, new lesson. Also, you can vary activities so they are not so predictable. Vary your activities. Ask learners, for example, to write questions for the reading instead of answering the questions in the book. So you can ask the students to prepare or to make some questions for the text, not just answer the questions. Okay. They can even build up some type of questions. Use technology, design a website, write the text message, race to find information on the internet, or create a quiz with the reading questions. That also will be helpful. Okay, this is for Isabel. What about Axel's? Axel said that I really enjoy my English lessons. We learn lots of different things, but I am worried because I forget so much. I forget so much. Maybe it's just me, but I need to know how to remember what we learn or what we learn. Okay, my advice to Axel's teacher that Axel's teacher may have a lot to cover in the syllabus. However, for learning to become a permanent Axel need opportunities to recycle what he is learning. So he need to make some type of recycling. This means he should repeat the same language or skills doing different activities or in different situations so that he can consolidate his learning. And Axel's teacher could make recycling part of every lesson. For example, by writing revision questions on the board at the start of class, by playing a vocabulary review game, or through homework activities. Also, Axel's teacher could decide not to do some things in the coursebook or syllabus that are less important for the class so that there is more time for recycling. Okay, so he can focus on the most important, okay, parts, okay, of the course. Okay, and he can even serve time, okay, even or more time for what? For recycling. When you say recycling, that means to check or even to practice the previous language that they have studied. Okay. Also, Axel's teacher can plan lessons so that they link to each. For example, teaching vocabulary is one, even in one lesson that learners might use in speaking or writing in the next lesson, or or listening to something that learners will write about in the next lesson. So he will make some type of link, okay, between uh, the previous lesson and the coming lesson, okay, or the first lesson and the second lesson, okay. And this thing is also uh, important. Okay. Okay, now we have Priya Ahmed. Let's start with Priya. Priya says, sometimes our course is good, but then you get stuff that is just boring and a waste of time. There are topics about life in England, but they are nothing like my life. I don't really see the point. This is about Priya. Here we can think of uh, Priya. Okay, we can say some of the coursebook materials is not interesting or relevant for Priya. Okay, Sometimes Arab students, okay, need something connected with his what culture or from his culture, or even have some type of information, okay, that connected with his culture, okay. Uh, so we can say Priya's teacher could do a needs, okay, analysis with the class to find out what they want, need to or even what they want, or even what they need to learn, and what the topics they are interested in. So try to give them some type of opportunity to select their topics. Okay. Also, the teacher, okay, could stop doing everything in the course. Select things that are appropriate for his or her learners, and reject things that are not interesting or helpful. Okay. Ask the learners to look at the next unit in the course book and say what they would or wouldn't like to do from it. Okay, to give them even chance to select, yes, or to choose their topics, or even adapt activities that are not appropriate for the culture or lives of the learners. Example, change a reading text about the Beatles, you say Beatles, famous English music group, to one about famous music group from their own country, or a more modern group that is well known to the learners. Okay, so this is about prayers and some advice to prayers teacher. What about Ahmed's or Ahmed? Ahmed says we follow the course book in our class. Every day we do 2 pages. It's okay, but it does get a bit boring. Okay, this happen. Okay, also. Um, okay, after doing a few units from a course book, the units can start to seem the same. The designs are similar, and the types of activities are repeated. This can be or can become boring and predictable. And Ahmed's teacher should use uh, SARS principle. When you say SARS principle here, it means the letters, okay, SARS. S for select, and A for adapt, and R for reject, and S for supplement. So he will call it as SARS principle. Select and use what is interesting and helpful for the book or from the book. Okay, so try to think of selecting and using what is interesting for your students and what is helpful for your students from the book, and adapt the activities or texts to make them more interesting or culturally appropriate, and reject. That means do not use things that are boring or the learners do not need. Supplement Say supplement by adding other materials and activities to the course. So here we call it as source. Again, S for select, A for adapt, and R for reject, and the last S for supplement. Uh, Also, the teacher could ask the learners to look at the next unit in the course book and say what they would or wouldn't like to do from it. And he could involve the learners in bringing materials for the class. Okay, he can ask them to prepare some materials. Okay, some posters. Okay, that includes something about the lesson. Ask learners to take turns to choose a song. Okay, for example, from their culture. Okay, or some type of songs to listen to in a class and make a worksheet for it if they can. Make a presentation or bring in something important to talk about. The last advice, okay, that can be given to Ahmed's teacher that he could involve the learners in making activities or materials. For example, making word cards and picture cards for matching game, okay, which known as what? Pelmanism, writing questions and interviewing their classmates, also making a word search or quiz. So all of these, okay, can be helpful even, can be helpful advice, okay. It can make uh, students, okay, interesting, yes, about the lesson. What about reflection? Okay, here we have some type of questions. What are the causes of each of the problems? Okay, just think of some reasons. What advice would you give to the learners, teachers? If you have something more to add, okay, you can write it down. Do you use Coursebook with your classes? In case you are teaching at school, okay, at school, okay, we have the Garnet series, okay. So there is Coursebook, okay. If so, what are the strengths and weaknesses of your Coursebook? How do you overcome the weaknesses? When you start your training, yes, practice, okay, you can think of these questions. They will be helpful, okay. Yes, one. Now, part B of this lesson, think, what do you know? The diagram below shows the steps you can take to plan a unit of work from your coursebook. Okay, we have some type of activity. Complete the gaps in the diagram with the words below. We have the words are number A, needs, number B, activities, number C, sequencing, number D, syllabus, and E, backwards. Okay, you can have some time, okay, to think about the answer, okay, for this question. Just select or complete the gaps in the diagram with the words, okay, that mentioned from A to E. Okay, number Let's start with the first one. Decide how many lessons to plan. You can say, check the what. We need noun here because of that. Okay, the comes before noun, so check what. Yeah, yeah. Here we think of them all again nouns. Okay, so think of what? Check the syllabus. Check the syllabus. Okay, number 2. Write aims for the unit. Write aims for the units, and you know how to make aims. Okay, look at the aims for the next unit in your course book and consider your learners what? Your learners needs. Your learners needs. Yeah. All right. The next one. Look at the course book and decide what you will use. For example, use the SARS principle. Select, adopt, and and what? Reject and supplement. What you can use or what can you use? Select. What can you adapt? What will you reject? And what will you need to add? You think of supplement. Decide what your end product for this unit will be. Decide what your end product for this unit will be. Imagine you are building a house. Each lesson and activity is a brick that helps learners achieve something bigger. What is your house? The course book probably has an outcome, something the learners will produce, speaking or even writing, or spoken or written. Draw a grid for the length of time you are planning. Start from the end point and work what? Work, yeah, backwards. Work backwards. What skills, language, or knowledge do learners need to be able to do this? Add ideas from the course book and other materials. Add ideas from the course book and other materials. Design principles for what? Lessons. For the sequencing lessons. For the sequencing lessons. When you say sequencing, That means from easy to difficult, okay, or even from known to unknown. So he should design principles for sequencing lessons from easy to difficult or from known to unknown. Okay. Number or the next one, from control to freer. Yes, freer. We think of from from control to freer. Freer what? Freer activities. So here we have some type of design principles for sequencing lessons from easy to difficult, from known to unknown, from controlled to freer, to freer what? To freer activities, and the last principle from input, okay, listening or even reading to output, speaking or writing. Here we have input and output. Then evaluate your unit of book using a checklist and make changes to your unit plan. The reflections: how far ahead do you usually plan? For example, a week or a unit or a term, and why? Okay, it's better to prepare it a week, okay, and also a unit, okay, will be good, okay, to prepare it before the time, okay, I mean before the time of the lesson or giving the lesson. How much detail do you include when you plan a unit of work or series of lessons, and why? Which of the language systems, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation, and which of the language skills, reading, listening, speaking, or writing, is it important to spend more time on with your learners, and why? Here, I want you to remember when you say language systems include what? Vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Okay? And when we say skills, language skills, you should remember, yes, here we mean what? Reading, listening, speaking, and writing. We call them as receptive and productive skills, or even input and output. Part C, try. How does it work? Your resources, your course book, the planning diagram from part B of this lesson, and the unit plan checklist from the answers and commentary, okay, or commentary section. And time is a series of lessons, okay, we think of it as a series of lessons. Rational. Planning for sequence of lessons means you can create the best conditions for learning. You have time to consider your learners, so to consider your learners' needs, and to select from the course book intelligently to meet those needs rather than just following page after page. You are also able to estimate timing more effectively. When you plan a sequence of lessons, you can support learning by building on what has already been learned and making connections between lessons. Here we have some type of instructions. Yeah. First, choose a unit from your coursebook. First, choose a unit from your coursebook. Okay, if you are working with the sixth or the seventh class, okay, take the coursebook of them. Okay, the Garnet coursebook. Okay, and involve the learners by asking them to look at the unit and decide what look interesting or useful or not useful or interesting. Okay, you could use think, pair, share. Think, pair, and then share, and ask them to look and decide individually. Okay, that means think, look and decide individually. Think, discuss ideas with partner. That means pair, and also discuss ideas in a group. That means share, and report the results to you. So he would think of, yeah, think, pair, and share. When I say think, that means look and decide individually by yourself, and then discuss with pairs or with some other one. Discuss your idea with some other partner. That means pair, and also discuss ideas in group. That means share, to share your results. Okay, to share and report your results. Plan a series of lessons for the class for 1 or 2 weeks using the procedure that we mentioned in the previous part B. Okay, you can use the ways, okay, that we mentioned. It is necessary, check, or even if necessary, check with the senior teacher that it is okay to make change to the course. So check with the senior teacher or some expert. Evaluate your plan using the checklist in the answers and commentary section. Teach your unit of work and make a note of any change you make to your plan while you are teaching. At the end, ask the class to give you feedback on what they liked or didn't like about the unit. And you could ask learners to complete 2 sentences on piece or even on a piece of paper and give it to you at the end of the lesson without names. Okay, so you can tell them to write that in this unit I liked ... and also can write as in this unit I didn't like so and so. Okay. In reflection, you can think of the questions. Okay, were you able to complete everything in your unit of work? If not, why not? Where did you lose? Where did you lose time? Which part? What changed, or sorry, what change would you make with this sequence of lessons if you taught them again? What change would you make to this sequence of lessons if you taught them again? Think about the feedback from your learners too. Were there any common things the learners liked or didn't like? If so, why do you think that was? Okay, just think of them when you teach us at school, okay, or in training time. Okay, that's all for our lecture for today. We'll stop here, inshallah, and see you, inshallah, on some other lecture. Goodbye.